Hello to everybody out there on the internet. A lot of you guys who subscribe to my YouTube page know me as Chappie. I'm the lead instructor for new survival skills, and I want to talk to you guys briefly about something that's irritating the crap out of me right now. And that is a majority, a group of people who are willing at this point in time to take up arms and go to war against our federal government, agents of our federal government, be they Bureau of Land Management, U.S. Forest Service, Department of the Interior, whoever, over a man who has clearly broken the law. And not only has he broken the law, he's expressed honestly that he has done such. So, while I go through this rant video, I will be chewing because I'm irritated right now. So you'll have to put up with this. Let me first explain to you that the situation that this man is going through, where he owns approximately 150 acres of land, which is bordered by Bureau of Land Management property. He does not own the property that the BLM owns, nor did his family ever own that property. But this man is implying that because his family has been there for generations, he has the implied right under the Constitution of the United States of America to do as he sees fit with that property, to graze his cattle there, to use it however he deems fit. That argument and excuse never flew for the Native Americans of this nation. Why should it fly for this man? Secondly, if anybody has ever been on public land, be it the forest, Bureau of Land Management property, or even state parks, these places are all open to you and me, every United States citizen, and even tourists, to use and utilize in a free manner, except for when you use the property to make a profit. And that would include the Burning Man event that's held out in the desert in Nevada, any kind of racing event at the Bonneville Salt Flats, any kind of concert that's put on out in the desert or in the forest anywhere, where a person has to obtain a use permit and they have to pay for the venue, and there's a tax levied, a fee levied against the use of the property. Insurance has to be obtained for the property. There's all kinds of fees that have to be paid because you are making a profit using public land. This rancher in Nevada has elected to use public land without paying any fees, and he's breaking the law. No other American citizen would be allowed to go onto federal land, state land, public lands of any sort, and set up a production company, a taco stand, a baseball field, a concert venue, and hold an event without paying to use said property. That's the way it works. You're getting to use a piece of property to generate an income. So you are paying to use that piece of property. Now, if you want to come to my home and you want to utilize my home for your business adventure, I'm going to charge you to do that. You have to pay to use public property in the same way. Now, people have talked about this exorbitant amount of money that Mr. Bundy is being charged by the government. You have to remember that these fees are all the back fees he hasn't paid. The fee for grazing is $1.35 per cow. If the cow has a calf, it's still $1.35 per cow and calf per month to graze on that property. There is no way between heaven and hell that this man could graze his cattle and pay for the feed or pay for the private land to graze his cattle at $1.35 per cow per month any place else in the United States, it would be feasibly impossible. The government has given this man such a lofty break so that he can make a profit, so that he can take care of his family, so that he can do all these other things, and yet he refuses to pay the fee that would be charged to any other American citizen for using public land. If I want to host an event in the National Forest where I'm teaching a survival class, I have to obtain insurance and I have to pay for the use of the forest for that weekend. If you want to shoot a movie in the forest, you have to obtain insurance and you have to pay for the use of the forest. That's the way the law is. And then you see this video come out of all these Cliven Bundy supporters who are clashing with the law. Kudos to the law enforcement for restraining yourselves. I've watched the video. I've seen the woman who cracked me up at yelling, "You're not going to threaten a woman, and I'm pregnant, so tell your dog I'm pregnant." What a joke. If you pay attention to the video, if you watch it closely enough, you will see that there's a woman who's knocked down. And the son of Cliven Bundy says, you know, my aunt got knocked down. But if you slow the video down and you watch it, you'll see that prior to her being knocked down, she was getting ready to hit, attack, whatever, a vehicle that was coming out of the ranch. And she was deflected by one of the officers. I'm sorry, but if you're interfering with a law enforcement officer in his duly appointed job, which was a court order to remove the cattle because Mr. Bundy hadn't paid his bills, and you get knocked down because you're about to attack somebody or something, that's your fault. And then you see the other kid getting tased. Why they weren't gassed and hauled off to jail is beyond me. Seriously beyond me. Anywhere else in the nation, they probably would have gotten gassed and hauled off to jail. But if you continue to watch the video, this is something that I try to tell people all the time because I do work in video and photography. Photos and videos can do two things very well. They either tell the truth or they tell a lie. Depends on the story that the person filming it wants you to hear. If you pay attention to that video close enough, you'll see towards the end where the guy who's filming it starts announcing to everybody around him to comply with the officers. Comply with the officers, comply with them, comply with them. Okay, we're not doing anything wrong. If you notice, there's a red vehicle that pulls up just out of shot, and a news reporter's cameraman gets out of that vehicle. Now that the media is there, these people's whole demeanor towards the police changes. They don't want to be seen as the aggressors. They want to be seen as the victims. While this is happening, Americans throughout the United States are getting all stirred up and rallied together, and they want to go there and take up arms against the government for a guy who's breaking the law. All of you militias who want to train in the forest, by law, you are supposed to pay a use fee. That's how the forests are maintained, by people paying their taxes. But how many people actually do that? How many people would much rather not pay their taxes and not pay a use fee and go out and use public land and then piss and moan and bitch and groan because they found toilet paper in the bushes, because there was no toilet paper in the crapper, because the toilet was full, because there's no money in the coffers to take care of the property that you're on, because people just don't want to pay the fee to use it? It astonishes me. Actually, no, it doesn't. Because deep in my heart, I know that there are millions of you out there who are just itching at the chance to pull the trigger. You are looking for a war. Whether you enlisted in the military and you were never accepted, whether you didn't have the ability to enlist in the military, whether you've never served a day in your life, most people involved in the militias have never fought a fight. They've never squeezed the trigger on another human being. They've never had to look down their gun sights at somebody else. And they want that. Just like the environmentalists, those of you out there who claim you're fighting for your God-given constitutional right, well, wait a minute. Is it God-given or is it constitutional? The Constitution is a piece of paper written by men, not by God. So those of you out there who are seeking to secure your freedom via force under guise of the Constitution, well, the truth be told, you're just like the environmentalists who really don't give a shit about the environment. They don't care about the world we live in. They don't care about anything other than, like George Carlin once said, their own little piece of property they live on. Those of you willing to stand up and fight, you really don't care about the freedoms of everybody in this nation. You simply care about your freedom. And there's only two freedoms you really care about. Your right to free speech and your right to keep and bear arms. That's it. You don't care about any other freedoms. Because for some reason you think that those two freedoms alone are all that matter. But it's not. We as American citizens have the right to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. That's kind of a tricky thing. Because if my next door neighbor finds joy and happiness in committing murder, well, somebody's going to have to deprive him of his life and his liberty because of his pursuit of his happiness. And if Mr. Cliven Bundy enjoys making a profit off selling his cattle while reaping the benefits of not paying for the feed that it took to raise those cattle, and you delight in joining in his fight against the U.S. government, there's something seriously wrong here. Think about it, people. What are you really standing up for? Who are you really standing up against? And why are you doing it? Are you standing up because a United States citizen's rights have been infringed upon? No. His rights were never infringed upon. He does not have the right to graze that land for the rest of his life simply because his ancestors did it, who very well may have paid grazing fees to begin with. Those grazing fees go back to something like 1940. The simple fact of the matter is, all of you who are up in arms right now, wanting to defend this man's inalienable right to graze his animals on his property because his ancestors did it, will not walk down to your local reservation and stand up for every single Native American whose ancestors had their land stolen. You just won't do it. You, by far, are the biggest hypocrites I have ever come across. Till the next time, take care, and take care of the wild.